Hello, 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 everyone. So, welcome to the Wealthy Trustee webinar. I'm super excited that you guys are here today. So, tonight we are going to be talking about how to actually set up a trust, right? So, how to build generational wealth utilizing a trust. So, we are going to dive in. Let's see here. If you guys are able to come on camera, that will be absolutely amazing. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through a short presentation. And then after that presentation, then I'll open up the floor for Q&A, and you guys can ask any and all questions that you have regarding how to set up a trust, okay? So without further ado, so I'm Christina Yvette. I am going to be presenting this phenomenal webinar for you guys tonight. I am a trust strategist. The way that I became a trust strategist was by way of real estate, you guys. So originally, I was a registered nurse by trade, and I was literally working, paycheck, living paycheck to paycheck, as a nurse. So I was working 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week as a nurse, living paycheck to paycheck. And I asked myself this one very important question, which is, how am I spending more time with my coworkers than I am with my family at home? And so it was frustrating for me. So I knew that I needed to find a second stream of income. I needed to find some type of way to where I could retire myself. So I gave myself a deadline of 10 years just to be in my career. And I ended up retiring in 8 years. And the way that I did that was by way of real estate. I'm gonna mute everybody. So I did that by way of real estate. So what I did was I was on my way to work one day, and I heard on the radio this announcement, this commercial that said, "Do you want to learn how to flip houses?" And so I told myself, absolutely yes, I want to learn how to flip houses. So I went on a seminar. It was a 3-day seminar where they teach you how to flip houses, and I learned a lot in that seminar. And so what ended up happening was I signed up for mentorship. And within 6 months of me signing up for mentorship, I bought my first property in Miami. So I'm originally from Miami. So I bought my first property. It was a little 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 900 square foot house that I bought for $89,000. And my mentor at that time, he told me, you need to put this house in a trust. And I was 25 years old. I was young. I didn't even know what a trust was. And so I was like, why do I need to put this house in a trust? And he said, because you need to protect this asset, right? This is your first property, and it's going to be going through renovation. And so you don't know if somebody could get injured during that renovation and end up suing you. So you need to protect yourself now and think ahead of time. And I said, that's absolutely right. So I set up a trust, and I put that property into a trust, and I became a trustee. So that was in 2015, and I have been operating as a trustee ever since. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to teach you the fundamentals of how you can set up a trust and how you can become a trustee, and how you can utilize that tool in order to build wealth, in order to protect your assets, and in order to preserve the wealth that you are creating today. So without further ado, we're going to start the presentation. I do have a short presentation for you guys. So I'm going to share my screen here. And like I said, after the presentation, you can just raise your hand, come off mute, and ask any and all questions that you might have, okay? All right, so let me share my screen here. There we go. All right. Okay. All right, guys, so let's get started. So we're here to find out what an actual trust is, right? And so a lot of us were either not familiar with what a trust is, or we've heard the term trust, but we just don't know. We need more information, right? So a trust is an entity, you guys, just like you are an entity. So we are living, breathing entities. Well, a trust is actually a living, breathing entity as well. So it's seen the same way, okay? Now, the way that this entity comes into creation is by way of a contract. So it is a contract, and this contract has several different parties involved, which we'll get into. And it also has several different parts of the contract, which I'll break down. The two major parts of the contract that I want you to be aware of is the first one is the declaration. So the declaration of the contract of the trust agreement is where you're declaring what the entity is and you're declaring what it is not. So you are declaring that the entity is a trust, right? A trust by contract. And you're declaring that it is not a partnership, it is not a corporation, it is not a nonprofit, it is not a limited liability company or an LLP or any of those other types of entities, okay? So that's the declaration portion. Now, the next part is the actual trust indenture. The word indenture means agreement, right? So that's what we're doing. We're creating an agreement. And in this trust indenture is where you have the rules and regulations of how you want this trust to be operated, okay? So that is the most important thing, right? You have to actually put the bylaws in place saying that you want this trust to be operated in this certain manner, okay? So that is what a trust is. And with this trust, what you need to do is you need to have an establishment date, right? So that's the day that it comes into creation. So if we are creating this trust today, then we'll put the establishment date is today, okay? And it needs to have a term. So that's how long you want the trust to actually exist for, right? So usually the term period is anywhere between 1 to 100 years. So if you are intentional about building generational wealth, then you want to set that term for a longer period, right? So you want to set it for 100 years. And then at that 100-year mark, the trust is due to expire. So whoever the trustee is at that time, that individual needs to renew the trust and extend it for an additional 100 years, okay? So the expiration date is pretty much the death day, and the establishment date is pretty much the birthday of the trust, okay? So now let's talk about the different parties involved in the trust, okay? So who are the different parties involved? The first one is the grantor. So the grantor of the trust is the creator of the trust. So that is the individual who actually creates the trust, and they create it for the benefit of somebody else. So that somebody else is usually the beneficiary, okay? So another term for grantor that you might hear when you are actually doing your due diligence and your research, you might hear the terms trustor or settlor, okay? Both of those terms are interchangeable and they mean grantor, okay? So all three of them are the same position within the trust agreement, okay? So the second party involved is the trustee. The trustee is the controller of the trust. That is the individual who is what we call the fiduciary, okay? So they are operating the trust on a day-to-day basis. They have full control over all the assets inside of the trust, okay? So they have all the power and all the control, and they're the fiduciary for the beneficiaries. So they're operating the trust, they're growing the trust estate, they're in charge of all the investments that are inside of the trust for the beneficiaries, okay? So now the beneficiaries are the inheritors of the trust, okay? So those are the individuals or entities that's going to be inheriting the assets that are inside of the trust, okay? So they're going to one day receive those assets that are placed inside the trust once the trust is expired. But like I said previously, if you are intentional about building generational wealth, then you want to continue to renew your trust whenever it's due to expire so that it doesn't expire, and you can continue to protect protect those assets inside of the trust and have the beneficiaries benefit from those assets, okay? So now let's talk about the different types of trust. There's hundreds of different types of trust, okay? So I'm going to break down a few categories for you guys to be aware of so that when it's time for you to do your research and your due diligence, you can look for these types of trust, okay? So the first category that I want to tell you guys about is express versus implied, okay? So an express trust is a written trust. So that is a trust that is in black and white and it's on paper and it's in a contract. On the other side of that, you have an implied trust. An implied trust is an oral trust. So that is a trust where you have an oral agreement. So you and I, we can set up an oral agreement, which means that we can set up an oral trust, okay? So I do not recommend that you have an implied trust. You should definitely have an express trust. You want things to be in writing, okay? So the next category that I want to tell you guys about is complex versus simple. So you have a simple trust. A simple trust is shorter in nature, and the trustees are required to give distributions to the beneficiaries, okay? But on the other side of that, or contrary to that, you have a complex trust. The complex trust is longer in nature, so that means that it has more provisions or rules and regulations that you have to abide by. And the trustee is not required to give distributions to the beneficiary. The next category that I want to tell you about is discretionary versus non-discretionary. So with a discretionary trust, you or the trustee, right? So you want to appoint yourself as a trustee, but the trustee has full discretion to be able to do things that's going to benefit the trust estate, even though it's not written inside of the trust agreement, okay? So that means that whatever decision you make as a trustee, it's your full discretion that you have made that decision, right? To better the estate. Now, on the contrary to that, you have non-discretionary, which means that the trustee cannot make decisions that are not written inside of the trust agreement. So you're limited in the power and control that you have when it comes to that type of trust, okay? So let's talk about the next categories, which is statutory versus non-statutory. So with a statutory trust, that means that every single state has state statutes, okay? And so if you're creating a statutory trust, usually those trusts are created by attorneys, and you're limited to the state where you set it up in because it has state statutes embedded inside of that contract, okay? So for example, if you created a trust in Florida and that trust now has Florida state statutes and codes inside of it, you are limited and you can only use that trust in Florida. But let's just say you had investment properties in North Carolina and California, you would then have to create a separate trust for those investment properties, okay? So with that being said, with a statutory trust, you are limited, and then you're also giving the state jurisdiction to be able to regulate your trust. Usually with a statutory trust, those trusts are registered with the state, which means that they are a part of the public records, which is not what you want. You do not want to register your trust. You don't want the public to know of the existence of your trust, okay? So just be mindful of that, okay? So on the contrary to that, you have non-statutory. With a non-statutory trust, it operates in the common law jurisdiction, which means that there's no state statutes or codes embedded inside of the trust agreement, which means that you can actually use that trust in all 50 states and all US territories, okay? Which is good for you because you have flexibility and you have control to be able to use that trust how you deem necessary, okay? So with that being said, because there's no state statutes or codes embedded inside of that trust, it's more favorable for you, okay? So, and it's not a part of the public records, so you can maintain the privacy of that trust, which is what you want. You don't want it to be registered. So usually a non-statutory trust, you can maintain the privacy and it's not going to be available on the public records, okay? So let's talk about the last category that I want to tell you guys about, which is revocable versus irrevocable. So with a revocable trust, that is where the grantor and the trustee are the same person. They're the same individual. And so when you are the grantor and the trustee, that type of trust is actually seen as an alter ego. So that means that the grantor is actually able to make changes with a revocable trust. So what types of changes are they able to make? Well, if they were to put assets inside of the trust, they can take those assets out. If they were to appoint trustees and beneficiaries, they can replace them and remove them. If they were to set up and establish the trust, they can terminate the trust at any point in time, and they can make amendments to the trust at any point in time, okay? So because a revocable trust is seen as an alter ego, because the individual that established it, which is the grantor, has power and control, creditors can actually come after this type of trust, meaning that if you are the grantor and the trustee and you have creditors like a bank or, you know, a collection agency or or, you know, a lawsuit or anything, they can actually come after your trust because it can be pierced, right? So if that trust was to end up in litigation, the judge can decide to pierce through the revocable trust, which means that you would be forced to bring that trust to court, okay? And if you bring that trust to court, then that means that they would then be able to expose the entire trust. And so everyone would now know who the trustee and beneficiary are and what assets you have inside of the trust, what's the net worth of the trust, okay? So that trust will then, unfortunately, now become a part of the public records, okay? For an irrevocable trust, okay? So for a revocable trust. So now on the contrary to that, you have an irrevocable trust. An irrevocable trust is where the grantor and the trustee are two separate individuals. They cannot be the same person. The grantor who has created the trust, they have no power and no control. They have what we call irrevocability, which means that they are not able to remove assets that are placed inside of the trust, right? They are not able to remove or replace trustees and beneficiaries. They're not able to make amendments to the trust, and they're not able to terminate the trust because they have no power and control. All the power and control belongs to the trustee. So the trustee is able to do all of those things with an irrevocable trust, okay? So because those are two different individuals, the creditors more than likely are not going to come after an irrevocable trust, right? So your assets are actually fully protected with an irrevocable trust versus a revocable trust. So let's just say that there was a creditor that wanted to actually go through litigation for your irrevocable trust. The judge would decide not to pierce through an irrevocable trust, okay? Which means that you get to maintain the privacy of your trust, right? People are not going to know the contents of the trust, the assets that you have inside of the trust, or the beneficiaries of the trust, okay? So with that being said, let's continue on. All right, so how do we actually create a trust? So the first thing you want to do is you want to determine the type of trust that you want to create. So I just gave you several different categories of trust, right? And so the type of trust that I recommend that you get is a express trust. So you want it to be written, you want it to be complex in nature, you want it to be non-statutory so that you can use it in all 50 states and all of the US territories. And then you also want it to be discretionary so that you're able to make decisions that are not inside of the trust agreement. And lastly, you want it to be irrevocable so that your assets are fully protected and it won't be pierced in any competent court system, okay? So with that being said, let's move on to number 2, which is you determining the trust name, right? So now that you've determined the type of trust that you want to create, right? Do your research, do your due diligence, see what is the best type of trust for you, your family, your business, your organization, okay? So now you want to actually create a name for the trust, okay? So you have to create a name for the trust. When you are creating a name for the trust, keep these 2 things in mind. 1, do not name the trust after yourself. This is one thing that I see in the industry that is absolutely detrimental to you if you want to actually protect your assets, okay? So if your name is John Doe, do not name the trust the John Doe Trust, okay? Because you don't want people or associations or businesses or lawyers or anyone to know that you are associated with that trust, okay? So you want to choose names that are, very unique and distinct and not associated with you. Usually people will choose names like Legacy and Dynasty and, things like that, okay? So just remember that. And then the second thing that I want you to know, when you are actually creating a trust, you don't have to have the word trust in the actual name, right? Because another thing is that you're operating an entity, and with this entity, you don't even have to let them know that it is a trust. Let their mind wander and think that it's something else, okay? So now that you have figured out a name, what you want to do is you want to appoint the different parties involved. Remember, this is a contract and there's several different parties. So the first party that you want to appoint is the grantor, right? So remember, if you are establishing an irrevocable trust, you cannot be the trustee and the grantor. So the position that you want is you want to have all the power and all the control. You want to be able to make changes to the trust and control the assets that are inside of the trust. So you're going to appoint yourself as the trustee. That means that you have to appoint someone else to be the grantor on paper. That person can be, a best friend, a cousin, a neighbor, a sibling, okay? All right, so now that you've chosen a grantor, then you're going to choose yourself or appoint yourself as a trustee, and then you're going to appoint your beneficiaries. So your beneficiaries can be entities, or there can be, natural people, which is usually your children, okay? And then the next thing is you want to appoint a successor. So that successor is what we call a successor trustee. That is the individual that's going to take over after you in the event that something happens to you. Meaning, if you become incapacitated, if you resign, or if you expire, that successor trustee is going to pick up where you left off, because the trust is actually designed to outlive you. And so you need someone that's ready to go, that's going to actually continue to operate the trust, okay? So number 3 is actually create the trust agreement. So that's where you're going to pull all the rules and regulations of how you want this trust to be operated, okay? This is where we put what we call spendthrift provisions, meaning that you get to control the money from the grave, right? So however you want the beneficiaries to be able to spend those distributions, you're going to put that inside of the trust, okay? So if you want to limit the investments to just real estate or crypto or anything like that, you can put those rules in there, okay? So now that you've established or created your contract, the next thing that you have to do is you have to legalize this contract. So the way that you're going to do that is by notarizing the trust agreement. So the trust agreement needs to be notarized by 2 individuals, by the grantor and the trustee, okay? So both of those individuals need to be at least 18 years or older, and they need to sign the trust agreement in front of a notary. It's going to be notarized. Once it's notarized, it's legalized, and you can start operating the trust immediately, okay? So the first thing that you want to do once your trust is legalized is you want to open up that trust fund. You want to open up that bank account for the trust, okay? So what does that look like? Well, you can go to any bank any financial institution or any credit union that offers trust accounts. Not every single bank or credit union offers trust accounts, okay? So now the type of account that you can open up is you can open up a checking account, a savings account, a money market account, a brokerage account, right? And so this account is going to be in the name of the trust, okay? And then you're going to fund it. And you can fund it with whatever the bank's minimum is. So sometimes some banks, their minimum is $100, so you can fund it with $100, okay? And so there's two things that you need to bring to the bank with you. You need to bring the certificate of trust. The certificate of trust is proof of identification that the trust actually exists, right? Because your trust agreement, let's just say, is 50, 60 pages. You're not going to bring all 50, 60 pages with you to the bank. So what you're going to do is you're going to bring a 2 to 3 page certificate of trust, which is a summary, which actually is also notarized, and it just lets everyone know, whoever you're providing this certificate to, that this trust entity exists. And then you're also going to provide them with the EIN number. The EIN number is a 9-digit number that you get from the IRS for banking purposes so that you can open up that trust fund, okay? All right, so now that you open up this bank account, the next thing that you want to do is you want to transfer your assets inside of the trust. This is the absolute most important thing, to actually protect your assets. If your assets are not legally inside of the trust, then they are not fully protected, okay? So this is the step that I see a lot of people that they, fail to get to this step, right? And this is actually the most important step. So, for example, let's just say that you have a primary residence, your home, right? So with your home, right, what you want to do is you want to actually transfer that home from your personal name into the name of the trust. So typically what you have is a warranty deed, right? And so you're going to redeed the property into the name of the trust, okay? So that means that now you'll do, let's just say, a quit claim deed, right? So you'll do a quit claim deed and you'll deed it over from your personal name into the name of the trust. Then you'll go ahead and submit it with the county. Now the county is actually going to update the public records to represent and show that the new owner of that house or that property is the trust, okay? Which means that you are now taking your name off of the property, and now the property is going to be fully protected and in the name of the trust. And it's going to be on the public records, because a lot of us, we don't know that people are able to search the public records and see that we actually own these properties, right? They can just put your name right into a property search, first and last name, and every single house that you own in that property will show up, right? And that county will show up. So that's why you want to remove yourself from the public records, because you become what we call low-hanging fruit for individuals that want to sue you, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. So the most important thing is asset protection, right? That is the number one reason why you want to set up a trust. You want to set it up for asset protection and to maintain your privacy, right? You want a sense of obscurity to where people are not able to check the public records and see, how many houses you own, what assets you own, things of that nature, okay? So what can a trust actually protect you from? A trust can protect you from bankruptcies, from divorce, from foreclosures, from heavy taxations, from lawsuits, from probate, right? So let's talk about a few. So the first one that I want to discuss is divorce, because a lot of people, they don't know that divorce is actually a transfer of wealth, you guys, okay? And so with a divorce, it is a lawsuit between two spouses. And included in the divorce is all of the assets that are in your name. meaning your 401k, meaning the houses, the cars, the bank accounts, any investment accounts that you have, things like that, right? So all of that plus your debt is included inside of the divorce, okay? And so the way that a trust can protect you is because the trust is not you. The trust is a separate entity from you. So any and all assets that you have inside of the trust cannot be pulled into your divorce because the divorce is between two people, right? And so since the trust entity is a separate entity from you, let's just say that you have 6 properties in there. Those 6 properties are legally excluded from your divorce because they're owned by the trust and they're not owned by you. So that's how you can protect yourself utilizing a trust from divorce, okay? The next one I want to tell you guys about is heavy taxation, because a lot of us, we are giving away a lot of money to the government, okay? So if you live in these states like California and New York, you're giving away half of your income to the IRS, right? Let's just be honest. And so a way that a trust can protect you from heavy taxation is by you setting up a specific type of trust, right? So this is a nonprofit tax-exempt trust. And what you can do is you can donate up to 60% of your annual gross income to that trust, okay? So if you go on the IRS website, you'll be able to see on there that you are legally allowed to donate up to 60% of your income. So if you donate 60% of your income to your trust, then what you're going to do is you are only going to be taxed on 40% of your income, which means that you're going to be saving thousands of dollars on taxes, right? Because now let's just say that your annual gross income was $100,000, right? You donated 60 of it to your trust, and now instead of you being taxed on $100,000, you're only going to be taxed on $40,000. So, like I said, that money that you are going to be saving, you can then allocate it and you can use it for other things, meaning other forms of investment. Okay, that money that is going to be saved on taxes. So let's move on to the next one, which is lawsuits, you guys, right? So we live in the United States, right? A majority of us. And here in the United States, it is actually a sue-friendly country. Let's just be honest, right? So your neighbor wants to sue you, your sibling wants to sue you. And so what you need to do is you need to protect yourself now, and don't wait until you're getting sued to protect yourself from a lawsuit, okay? And so a trust can actually protect you from a lawsuit, right? So how is that possible? Well, let's just say that you have a business, okay? And with this business, you are the owner of the business. And let's just say that somebody decides to sue your business. You have a customer, they decide to sue your business, right? Well, what can happen is if they decide to sue your business, it's very easy for them to find out who the business owner is. All they have to do is go down to the Secretary of State's website. They can put in the name of the business, and all of the information is available on the public records, meaning on the website, they'll show you, who the actual owner or authorized member of this company is, okay? And so now they'll be able to know who they need to go after for this specific lawsuit, right? So if somebody is suing your business, let's just say it's a limited liability company, right? LLC, right? Well, with an LLC, you can actually hear it in the term, right? So LLC stands for limited liability company. So the word limited is in there, right? Which means that the company or the business or the entity has limited liability. So let's just say it's half, right? So who do you think has the other half of that liability, right? So the other portion of that limited liability belongs to the business owner, which is you. So in the event that somebody decides to sue your LLC and there's a judgment against your LLC, right, and your company is not able to fulfill the judgment, then the judge can decide to pierce through that corporate veil, meaning pierce through that protection or that limited liability that you had, and they can go after you as the owner. So if they go after you as the owner, that means that they can go after all of your personal assets, meaning they can actually seize your primary residence to fulfill that judgment and all of your other assets, as well as they can garnish your wages and your bank accounts. Why? Because all of those things are in your personal name and you are the business owner and the business has been sued, right? So you don't want to be in that position. So what you want to do is you want to set up a trust. This trust will protect you from that very situation. Why? Because now what you want to do is that trust is now going to be the owner of that business, right? So the trust is going to own that asset. So a lot of people, they don't see their business as an asset, but it definitely is an asset, okay? And so because your company is an asset and you're the owner, what you want to do is you want to actually have a first layer of protection between you and the business, okay? Just in case something like this happens. So what you're going to do is you're going to do an amendment with the Secretary of State and you're going to remove yourself as the owner of that business. And you're going to put a trust as the new owner of that business. So in the event that somebody decides to sue your business, guess what? And if they sue your business and your business has a judgment on it now, and the judge decides to go after the business owner, the judge is now going to decide to go after the trust, okay? And that specific trust is a business trust, right, that we utilize as a holding company. So it doesn't have any assets in it. Its main purpose is to just have ownership and management and control over the LLCs and corporations, okay? So now they decide to pierce through that corporate veil and go after the trust, right? And so now you are fully protected, right? You're not going to be able to lose any of your assets in this type of lawsuit because the trust has full liability, okay? So the trust is going to take full liability, and you being the trustee, you cannot, you don't take any liability for the trust, okay? So that is definitely the position that you want, and that's how a trust can protect you from lawsuits, okay? That's just an example. Let's move on to the next one, which is probate. So let me ask you this question, right? So let's just say that you have a primary residence, right? Your house that you live in, that your kids live in, right? And this house is in your personal name, right? And you didn't wake up tomorrow. The question is, how do you expect that house to be transferred from your personal name into the name of your children? Right? This is something that we don't think about. And we're just going day by day, not even having our affairs in order. So that is the question. You guys can come off mute. Somebody can answer that question if they're able to.
The house is going to go into probate court. You probably will lose it because probate takes a lot of money, more than half or a little bit of half of whatever the estate is worth, just to process that.
Yeah, so you are correct, right? So the answer is that you have to go to court, right? So right now, we have our house in our personal name. And we don't even know that our children are going to have to go to court and fight for that house, right? And so we're just going day by day, leaving, our affairs the way that it is, leaving that situation the way that it is, right? And so a lot of us, we don't know, we're not aware. And so that's why I'm here to bring awareness to this situation. So now what I want to do is I want to describe the whole probate process so that you're aware of what your children have to go through if you keep your situation the way that it is right now. Okay. So so let's talk about it, right? So let's just say that you have this primary residence, right? This big, beautiful house that you have a 30-year mortgage on, okay? And so this house is in your personal name. Let's just say that you have a will, right? A lot of people think that a will is good enough, but unfortunately it is not. A will end up in probate. It always does, right? And so there's only one way to avoid probate. The only way that you can avoid probate is by having a trust estate, okay? That's the only way to avoid probate, okay? No other way is going to avoid probate. So let's just say that you have a will, and then you have all these assets. So you have a house, you have a car, you have money in the bank, right? A checking account with, $1 million in it, right? So you have all these assets, but then you also have debt too. Let's just say that you have, credit card debt, a car loan, student loan, hospital bills, things like that, right? And so you didn't wake up tomorrow. So now what's going to happen is, because you only had a will and you didn't have a trust, the state where you are a resident in, that state is now forced to create an estate for you. Okay. And so they're going to create the John Doe estate, okay, for you. And now they are going to put all of your assets into that estate. So the house, the car, the bank account, all of those assets are going to be transferred into your estate. And now your estate needs to be represented in probate court. So your estate is going to go to probate court. Your estate needs to be represented by a probate attorney, right? And so that's the process, right? And so now what happens is, the first thing that the judge does is the judge pays off your debt. Okay. So if you have 50,000 in student loans, 100,000 in credit cards, all of that is going to be removed or liquidated or taken out of your estate. Okay. And paid to those third-party companies, to those creditors, okay? And then what's going to happen is they're going to pay off the hospital bills, the nursing home, whatever other liabilities you had, okay? And then, so now that your debt is paid off, then the probate attorney is going to take their portion, and then the probate court is going to take the court fees. Whatever is left over is what your children get. So your children's inheritance is the leftovers. Sometimes, unfortunately, there's nothing left over for them, right? Because the hospital bills were so much, right? And so you don't want to put your children in that position. Why? Because, and I've seen this so many times, right? They are in a fragile state, right? So your children, they just lost the most important person in their life. And so now, because you didn't have your affairs in order, you're dragging them through the probate process in order for them to either fight each other, because we've seen it, right? Sibling rivalry, they're fighting each other for the assets, or for them to be able to fight the probate court in order to keep mom and dad's house, right? And so unfortunately, and I've seen this myself, right, where the judge decides to unfortunately sell your house in order to cover your debt, right? And so you don't want your children to lose their inheritance. You already know that you want your children to inherit your home, to inherit the money that's in your bank account, to inherit, your car, your stocks, your bonds, your crypto, all of these assets, your jewelry, your antiques, right? You already know this. So what you need to do is you need to create a trust estate, put all your assets in the trust estate, name your children as the beneficiary to avoid the entire probate process. Because unfortunately, probate is inevitable, right? We're all going to go through it unless we decide to create our own trust. So you have two options. You can either let the state where you live, right? Let's just say the state of California, create the estate for you when you expire without having your affairs in order, or you can create your own estate while you're living and avoid that entire process, right? Because you will be doing a disservice for your children if you didn't set up your estate and have your affairs in order, okay? So now let me show you an example of what it looks like when you have your affairs in order, right? So let's just say that you've created your trust estate, okay? So you got your affairs in order. And so now you've put all of your assets into your trust. So you put your house, you put your car, you got your stocks, your bonds, your crypto, the $1 million that's in the bank account. All of it is owned by the trust. You don't own any of those assets. Everything is inside of the trust. Your children are the beneficiary. You don't even have a will, okay? You did not wake up tomorrow. Well, guess what happens? Everything remains intact and your children get to grieve in peace. Why? Because they're not going to be dragged through the probate process. Why? Because everything is in the name of the trust. Everything's going to remain intact. There's nothing that needs to be done. The only thing that happens is your successor takes over now that you expired, right? And your children are going to benefit from all of the assets and receive their entire inheritance. Okay, they don't have to pay any inheritance tax. They don't have to pay a death tax. They don't have to pay capital gains tax or anything that's associated when you expire. And that debt that you had, meaning the hospital bills, the credit card bills, the student loans, that debt dies with you because that debt was in your personal name and those creditors cannot come after your trust estate. That is the process that you want your family to go through. If you are intentional about building generational wealth, that you actually want your children to receive the wealth or the money that you actually accumulating right now, and that you actually want it to last and not to be lost through the court systems, okay? So one thing that is for sure is that our children are losing their inheritance because of lack of knowledge, because of lack of these tools, okay? So in a minute, I'm going to show you guys about how to actually preserve your wealth, but let's continue on. So this is the wealth building formula, you guys, okay? This is my favorite slide. We're almost done, so hang in there with me, okay? So this is the wealth building formula. I have 3 pillars here for you. So the first one is structure, the second one is credit, the third one is invest, okay? So let's focus on structure for right now. So structure is so vitally important. It's important for you to be structured the right way. If you're not structured the right way, then you want to get restructured, okay? Then you want to get structured the right way. So when it comes to structure, this is the structure that I recommend, okay? And it's very important, one, for you to have multiple trusts within your structure, because you don't want to have all of your assets in one trust. Just like you don't want to have all of your eggs in one basket, right? So Remember in the beginning of the call, I told you guys that there's hundreds of different types of trust, right? And so you want to set up different types of trust for different reasons, okay? So the three trusts that I recommend is a business trust, and that is for individuals who are entrepreneurs and business owners, okay? Then a private family trust, so that's for individuals who have children who want to name them their beneficiary or for them to put their personal private assets. And then a tax exempt nonprofit trust, okay? So within your structure, you want to have a for-profit arm and a nonprofit arm. That is going to help you reduce your taxes, and it can put you in a position to where you can almost reduce your taxes down to zero or very low, right? So let's talk about the business trust first. So with the business trust, right? The first thing is with this type of trust, it's obviously for business purposes or for investments, okay? You can utilize this trust in two different ways. So the first way that you can utilize it is as a holding company, okay? Meaning that if you already have entities, legalized entities, meaning LLCs, LLPs, corporations, S corps, C corps, things like that, right? Then you want to keep those businesses intact. And what you want to do is you want to establish a business trust that's going to act as a holding company. So this business trust is going to be non-operational, meaning it does not offer any products or services. The reason for you establishing this business trust is to own those assets, to own the LLCs and LLPs and other assets, okay? So meaning that this business trust is now going to be the owner of your company and all of the assets that your company possess. So if your company possess commercial units or any type of commercial vehicles or trucks or company vehicles, things like that, then the business trust is going to hold all of those assets, okay? So that is how you're going to establish a business trust as a holding company. The other way that you can utilize this business trust is by actually utilizing it to conduct business, right? And so in the event that you don't have an LLC or a corporation already, you don't have to go and establish one. What you can do is you can establish a business trust. That business trust can then be operational and you can conduct business with it. So if you wanted to do real estate, if you wanted to do e-com, if you wanted to do a retail store, a restaurant, whatever it is that you want, you can operate your business with using a business trust as the structure that you have for that business, okay? So that is the second way that you can utilize this business trust, okay? So let's talk about utilizing it as a holding company, because I gave you an example earlier today and I kind of want to bring it back. So with the business trust, right, let's just say that you have your company that's already established. Your company is going to remain intact. Your employees, your payroll, whatever credit you've been established or account receivables, any of those things, all of that is going to remain intact. The only thing that you're going to do is remove yourself as the owner of that business. And now you're going to represent or show or change that the business trust is now the owner of that business, okay? Because now that's going to be your first layer of protection between the business and you. So you want to have the business trust be the middle person between you and the actual company, okay? Just in case a client or a customer decides that they want to sue you, okay? So now let's just say that your LLC has generated $100,000, right? So with that, what can happen is you can do your regular tax returns like you would do with your Schedule C, or what you can do is you can do a K-1 distribution and you can distribute all of those funds to the business trust, right? So let's just say that you did a K-1 distribution and you distributed all those funds to the trust. Then what you want to do is you want to, there it is. What you want to do is you want to then deposit those funds into the business trust. Now, once those funds are in the business trust, one thing that I love about trust is that with these types of entities, you actually get to spend the money first, and then you get taxed on the leftovers. So that's my favorite thing about a trust, right? Give me 1 second. So you're taxed on the leftovers, which is definitely the way that you want to be taxed, because on the normal side, right, how are we taxed, right? Because I'll talk about that in a minute. But how are we taxed, right? We're taxed first, and then we get to spend the leftovers, right? So with these type of entities, with a business trust, one, us as individuals, we file a 1040, okay? With a business trust, it is a for-profit entity. It's required to file taxes with the IRS, and the form that it files is a 1041. So the business trust is already seen as a separate entity from you, which is what you want, right? It's designed for that reason, but it's for your benefit for it to be taxed separately than you, versus with your LLC, it's, on your Schedule C and things of that nature, okay? So now, let's just say, right, that you did a distribution and you sent the 100,000 to your business trust, right? So now that 100,000 is sitting in your business trust, what are you gonna do? Well, we just said it, right? We're going to spend the money first, and then we're going to be taxed on the leftovers. So we're going to do our normal business expenses. So what are our operating costs, right? What are our administrative expenses, right? So we're going to deduct all of those, right? And so you can Google, do your research, Google a 1041, you'll see all of the deductions that you're eligible for, okay? And so what you're going to do is you're going to do your deduction. So out of that 100,000, let's just say that your operating expenses are 30,000, right? So now you're writing off the 30,000, you have 70,000 left. Well, guess what? You have to pay taxes on that 70,000. That's what's left over, right? And so a trust, the tax bracket it can be taxed anywhere between 10% as the bare minimum, upwards of 39%, right? And so it just depends on the income that's coming in, right? And so that 70,000 is going to be taxed. Or what you can do as an alternative is you can distribute that 70,000 to the beneficiary. And now that 70,000 is going to be taxed to the beneficiary and not to the actual trust. Okay. And so the business trust, let's just say that it did a distribution of 70,000 to the beneficiary. And so what we do is, the way that we structure it is that we have our family trust be the beneficiary of our business trust. Why? Because if you are a full-time business owner or entrepreneur, right, the money that you're generating from your business is actually going to be utilized to sustain your family, to provide for your family, right? And so that's why we make our family trust the beneficiary of our business trust, so that those funds from the business trust then can then be distributed to the family trust, okay? So now let's go back to the business trust. With the business trust, right, you have the 100,000 that came in, we deducted 30,000, we had 70 left. The 70,000 that was left was then distributed to the beneficiary, okay? So now it is no longer a tax liability for the business trust. Because it's no longer a tax liability for the business trust, now the business trust has a 0% tax liability, which means that it pays no taxes, okay? So now we're done paying taxes for the business trust and we zeroed it out. Let's move on to the private family trust. So the private family trust, that trust is specifically a asset holding trust. So that trust is going to be utilized to hold all your personal assets, okay? Meaning your primary residence, meaning your insurance policies, your vehicle, your stocks, your bonds, your crypto, your antique, your jewelry, things of those natures, okay? And so, and it's going to be utilized so that you can also have your children benefit from it, right? So you're going to have your children be the beneficiaries of your private family trust, okay? So now, you know, now what happens is now that the business trust has transferred or distributed 70,000 to the private family trust, that private family trust just received income. That is income, and the private family trust pays taxes. It is a for-profit entity. It also files a 1041 with the IRS. So with that family trust will now be responsible for filing for paying taxes on that 70,000. But remember, with these entities, we spend the money first and then we're taxed on the leftovers. That is the most beneficial part of these types of entities, okay? So with that being said, what are the operating expenses for running your family, right? So if your primary residence is inside of the family trust, then guess what? Any and all expenses associated with that primary residence is going to be an operating expense, meaning the taxes on your property, meaning maintenance, meaning utilities, right? Grocery, any of those things are considered expenses, okay? So that, as well as if you have any insurance policies or anything like that, right? So whatever it costs. So out of that 70,000, let's just say that your operating expenses is equivalent to 60. So now you've deducted 60,000 of the 70,000. So now you have $10,000 left that you have to pay taxes on. So normally you would pay 10% on that $10,000, you know, which is not that much money. It's $1,000, right? That you would have to pay in taxes to the IRS, okay? So what you can do is, in order to reduce your expenses even further, what you can do is you can issue a donation, right? So you can pay the $1,000 if you want, or you can donate a portion of that 10,000 to your tax exempt nonprofit trust, okay? So let's just say that you issued a donation of the 10,000. So now on the private family trust level, your tax liability is 0, you're done paying taxes. And now on the tax exempt nonprofit level, you just received a donation of $10,000, right? So what's going to happen, right? Well, with this type of structure, right, it is actually designated as what we call a 508c1a, which is, it can be called a lot of things. It can be called a church. It can be called a ministry. It can be called a faith-based organization, right? And so with this type of entity, it is for charitable purposes, for philanthropic purposes, for educational purposes, even for religious purposes, okay? So you can use this type of entity for any of those purposes, and you can designate it as a 508c1a, okay? Which means that there is it means that it is going to be exempt from federal taxes, not state taxes, federal taxes, okay? It's going to be automatically exempt from federal taxes. Why? Because there's a mandatory exception to not having to file for a 501c3, which it actually stems from the separation between church and state, okay? So because there's a separation between church and state, these types of organizations don't have to go down the 501c3 route, okay? So you're automatically exempt from federal taxes. You can also qualify to be exempt from other types of taxes, meaning state taxes, city taxes, county taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, okay? So you can qualify, but you do have to apply for those exemptions, but you do not have to apply for the federal exemption with the IRS. It's automatic, okay? So with this type of entity, like I said, this is the type of entity where you want to donate from your other entities, meaning you can donate from your LLC, your corporations, and as well as from your W-2 income. So if you're a W-2 employee, you can donate up to 60% of your annual gross income to your tax-exempt nonprofit trust. And then you're only going to be required to pay taxes on 40% of your income, okay? So with this type of entity, it can put you in a position to where you can save a lot of money, okay? So now with this entity, if anything that's coming in, if you're labeling it as a tithe or as a donation, you don't have to pay or you don't have to file taxes. You do not have to file a 1041, okay? But if you do label anything that's coming in as income, anything over $5,000, you do have to report it and file a 1041, okay? So it just depends on how you are labeling the income that's coming into this specific type of trust, okay? So I call it a ministry trust. Sometimes we call it an FBO, which is a faith-based organization. So it's just up to you if you want to operate it for religious purpose or if you want to operate it for educational purposes, okay? So as you can see, I operate mine for educational purposes, okay? So now let's move on to the next pillar, you guys. So the next pillar is credit, right? Credit is absolutely amazing. So that is where you're putting yourself in a position to where you're using OPM, you're using other people's money. So because you have a nonprofit within your structure, you do qualify for nonprofit grants, okay? With that type of nonprofit, you're not going to qualify for federal grants, but you can qualify for other types of nonprofit grants, okay? So with that being said, you definitely want to tap in with that resource. Now, the next thing I want to tell you guys about is credit. Why? Because credit is so vitally important. A lot of us, we are so heavily focused and relying on our own personal credit when we actually have the opportunity to build credit with a trust. So just like how you actually have, have personal credit, a trust can also have credit as well. So the trust is actually going to have business credit, which is equivalent to the same type of credit that you're going to get with an LLC and a corporation. It's based off of the EIN, right? So those LLCs and corporations, they build business credit off of the EIN. And so your business trust is also going to be issued an EIN and can also build business credit off of that EIN. You want to be able to tap in and build business credit with your business trust because now you're going to be eligible for higher lines of credit because it's business credit versus personal. And now you get to leverage a second credit profile so that you can then enjoy OPM, right? So that means that you can qualify for, for these credit cards, for lines of credit, and even personal loans, things like that, right? With the business trust, right? And that's definitely the route that you want to go in because then what you can do is you can leverage it in order to acquire assets for the trust, okay? So let's now move on to the next pillar, which is invest, okay? So these are my two favorite investments. And I wouldn't call them investments, I would call them assets, right? So my two favorite assets that you want to obtain when you have this type of structure, okay? So the first one is an index universal life insurance policy. The second one is real estate, okay? So with the first one, we shorten it up and we call it an IUL, index universal life, okay? So this is an insurance policy, so it actually insures your life. But with this policy, what you're going to do is you are going to be building cash value, right? So this policy, actually, you're going to be building cash value. That cash value is going to be earning compound interest. Why? Because you see the word index inside of the name of this actual policy, right? This vehicle. And so the reason why the word index is in there is because it actually mirrors the index. So an index is an indice, right? We're referring to an indice in the stock market. So there's several types of indices. So you have the Dow Jones, you have the NASDAQ, you have the S&P 500. So those are the indexes, right? And so your policy, the money that you're accumulating in there, the actual cash value that you're accumulating is going to mirror it. So it's not going to be inside of the market. It's not going to have any type of risk, right? It's just going to mirror whatever the market is doing, right? So this, the thing that I love about this type of policy is that it's risk-free. Okay. And it's also tax-free, right? So you have to always, when you're intentional about building generational wealth, you have to always go towards tax-free or tax-advantaged accounts, right? So the other thing is that it's liquid, right? It's absolutely liquid. And with this type of policy, your money is protected, okay? It's protected in this type of policy, so the government can't come after whatever funds you have inside of an IUL, okay? So a lot of people think that life insurance is supposed to be utilized when they're dead. But in actuality, life insurance is supposed to be utilized when you are living, because there's so many living benefits that you have with this policy, okay? So like I said, I just mentioned a few of them, but what I want you guys to know is that it's that you're going to be building cash value, okay? Not all insurance policies build cash value, so you want to keep that in mind. So now with the IUL, right, you're going to be building cash value, which is super important. And what's going to happen is whatever the stock market is doing. So let's just say that your particular policy is tracking the S&P 500. Whatever the S&P 500 is doing, the insurance carrier is going to match that. So for example, if the S&P 500 is doing 9%, then you're going to receive 9% returns on your cash value, okay? Which is, like I said, compound interest is super powerful because your money is now going to be making money, okay? That's the position that you want to put yourself in when you are intentional about building generational wealth, right? You want to put yourself in a position to where your money is making money for you, okay? And so what you also want to do is you want to have the trust be the owner of your life insurance policy. You're going to have the trust be the payer of the premiums of your life insurance policy, and you're going to have the trust be the beneficiary of the policy. Why? Because in the event that something happens to you, that money, that death benefit, right? So you're going to be building cash value, but then you're also going to have a death benefit associated with it, right? That death benefit is going to go straight into the trust fund if anything happens to you, okay? So what you want to do is you want to put yourself in a position to where you can utilize this tool, right? And put yourself in a position to where you can pay yourself first, right? Because a lot of us, we are not doing that, right? We are not paying ourselves first, right? We don't even understand the concept of paying ourselves first. So I'm going to break it down for you in the next couple of minutes, right? So let's just say that you are a W-2 employee, right? And it's Friday, it's payday, right? And so normally what happens is when we get paid, the first thing that happens is the IRS takes their cut. Okay, so the IRS does their withholdings. Then after that, then you have Medicare that does their withholdings. And then you have your Social Security Administration that does their withholdings. And then after that, you have your 401k contributions, right? So that's 4 organizations that have already taken a piece of your paycheck before you've even seen your paycheck, okay? So that means that you've paid those organizations first before you even paid yourself first, okay? All right, so now that we know that those 4 organizations have gotten paid, then what happens? Well, we receive our money, right? So we receive a direct deposit into our checking account, right? And so when we're receiving our direct deposit into our checking account, where does it go? Well, let's just say that you're banking with Wells Fargo, right? So it goes straight into Wells Fargo. So now you're paying Wells Fargo, okay? So that money is going straight into Wells Fargo, and what is happening? Well, you're making Wells Fargo rich, right? Why? Because Wells Fargo is then, they are leveraging your paycheck and they're utilizing it to go and give out credit cards, student loans, car loans, mortgages, right? And so they're giving out all of these financial products, right? And what are they giving you in return? Well, your money is just there, sitting there, and literally you're getting 0.00000005%, right? So you're literally getting nothing, right? And so a lot of people, they think that the bigger banks, that they're getting rich off of the mortgages and the car loans and the student loans and stuff like that. But they don't even know that the bigger banks, right? Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, these bigger banks, their number one asset is life insurance policies, right? And so it's called BOLI, bank-owned insurance, right? BOI. And so that's their number one asset. So if the bank's number one asset is life insurance policies, do you think that your number one asset should also be life insurance policies, right? Just think about that, because what I'm about to explain to you guys is really going to take a mindset shift, right? Because we are so programmed right now to work 40 hours a week for 40 years and retire when we're 65 and depend on Social Security and our 401k, right? And that is not how you're going to build generational wealth. So what it's going to take is for you to have an open mind and for you to step outside of the box to do what pretty much what the 1% is doing and not what the 99% is doing, right? So back to the scenario, right? So like I said, BOI, bank-owned life insurance, right? So that's how the banks are getting rich, right? So with that being said, your money just got direct deposited into the bank. So now you've paid the bank, right? You've let them leverage your funds. So now what happens, right? So let's just say you just got paid $5,000, right? So $5,000 just got direct deposited into your bank account. What is the first thing that you do? The first thing that you do is you pay your mortgage, you pay your rent, you buy groceries, you fill up your gas tank, you pay your utilities, right? So those are the things that you do. So you pay everybody first, right? And so after you have paid everybody first, what do you have left over? Out of that $5,000, you probably have $800 left. And you're just gonna let that $800 sit inside of your checking account and accumulate nothing, right? And so that is the rat race. That is what we're in. That is the rat race. And that is what we do bi-weekly, right? Every 2 weeks. That's what our vicious cycle is, right? And that's why we are on this hamster wheel. So we need to get off the hamster wheel and we need to do something different. So what you need to do that is different is you need to put yourself in a position to where you're paying yourself first instead of paying yourself last. Because that's what you've always been doing, paying yourself last. So now the way that you pay yourself first is when you receive your direct deposit, instead of you paying your mortgage, your rent, groceries, gas, utilities, all these other expenses, what you're going to do is you're going to move that money into your IUL, into your cash value life insurance policy. Why? Because now that you have moved that $5,000 into your IUL, that money has gone to your cash value. Now your cash value went up by $5,000. And guess what? That money is going to be earning compound interest. That if the S&P 500 is doing 9%, you're going to get 9% return on that $5,000. That is what needs to happen in order for you to pay yourself first, right? Your money needs to be making money, right? A lot of us, we think that we need to work and we need to, we need to work for the money. But in actuality, you can just put your money to work for you and the money can generate more money, okay? So that is what it's going to take. Now, you just got paid. It's Friday. You deposited the $5,000 into your IUL. But guess what? You need that money, right? You need that money in order to pay your mortgage or you're going to get, evicted, right? You need to put groceries in the refrigerator. You need to keep the lights on. So what's going to happen? Well, remember, this is an asset. Your IUL policy is an asset and it's liquid. So guess what? You can actually borrow, you can request a loan from the insurance carrier, right? And so the insurance carrier is going to, once they receive that loan request from you, they're going to take a look at your cash value. They're going to see, oh, okay, he has $5,000 in there. So we can give him a loan from our own money for $4,800, right? Because they're not going to wipe out the whole cash value account. So now what's going to happen is you're going to receive a loan from the life insurance company's reserves, from their money. So your $5,000 is going to remain inside of your cash value, inside of your policy, intact, generating the 9% or whatever the market is doing, 6, 7, 8%, whatever it feels like doing, earning compound interest. And now you just borrowed $4,800 from the life insurance carrier, from the company, from their money. They did a direct deposit back into your bank account. So now you have $5,000 inside of your policy working for you, and they just deposited $4,800 for you to now be able to pay your bills, for you to now be able to pay your mortgage, put gasoline in the car so you can make it to work tomorrow, put groceries on the table so that you can, eat and survive. So that is the concept of you paying yourself first. That is what you want to do in order for you to generate in order for you to create income for the trust, right? So, with that being said, let's move on to the next one. The next one is real estate, right? So with real estate, That's a tangible asset. So you have your IUL policy, which is a liquid asset, and then you have real estate, which is a tangible asset, right? So the trust, right? The trust gets to own real estate. That's a beautiful thing. The trust gets to take out mortgages. Just like you can qualify for a mortgage, the trust can also qualify for a mortgage. So what needs to happen is it needs to be able to prove, that it has income. So that could be through tax returns or bank statements, okay? So now you can actually qualify for a mortgage so that you can acquire assets for the trust. So what type of mortgage, right? Well, these properties that you're going to be picking up are investment properties, right? You're going to have tenants inside of them. You're going to be renting them on a weekly or monthly basis, right? And so what is going to happen is the trust is going to take out an investment loan. This investment loan is called a DSCR, debt service ratio loan for the real estate. So you can get up to 80% of whatever the purchase price is, right? For this real estate. So now the trust is going to qualify for a mortgage, and the trust is going to receive 80% of the purchase price, which means that you need to come up with 20% for a down payment for this real estate. Where is that 20% going to come from? Well, it's going to come from you actually building that business credit for the business trust. Remember, you want to put yourself in a position to where you are using OPM. You're using other people's money. You're going to be using the bank's money, right? So let's just say that you qualified for a credit card, 2 credit cards, 25,000, you have 50,000, right? So now what you're going to do is you're going to liquidate that credit card. You're going to liquidate that credit card, and now you're able to utilize it as a down payment for the real estate, right? So now you're able to actually utilize it as that 20% that you need as a down payment. So now the mortgage, the DSCR loan covered 80%. And your business credit card covered 20%, that's 100% of the purchase price, which means that you just bought real estate for 0%, 0% of your own money, right? Zero down, right? Which is the position that you want to put yourself in, right? Because what you want to do is you want to acquire assets for the trust so that the trust can sustain itself. You do not want to be putting yourself in a position to where you have to sustain the trust, meaning that you're pouring your W-2 income into the trust. You want the trust to sustain itself, which means that you want the trust to acquire all of these assets and generate its own income, okay? So with that being said, what is going to happen is that business credit card, right? When you liquidate it, what you can do is you can put that money into your IUL policy, right? That $50,000, you can borrow it back out, and then you can use it as a down payment for real estate. So now that money is working for you 2 ways. It's working for you inside of your cash value in your life insurance policy. And then it's also working for you because it's generating cash flow with the real estate that it was used as a down payment for. So now the cash flow that is coming from this real estate, what is that going to be utilized for? Well, that money can also go into your cash value, into your life insurance policy. You can borrow it back out, and then you can utilize that cash flow in order to pay back the business credit card and to cover the mortgage, and whatever is left over is going to be, funds that are placed inside of the trust for operation, okay? So that is the wealth building formula. That is the position that you want to put the trust estate in so that it can sustain itself and it can generate its own income, and you're going to be building generational wealth that's actually going to last generations. So let's now talk about what that looks like, right? So you are building generational wealth with the trust, okay? And so you want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. And I'm going to say that again. You want to put yourself in a position to where you own nothing but control everything. That is what stewardship is. Stewardship is where you are a good steward of your wealth and you're directing the wealth in a certain direction, and you are the one that is in control of the direction that that wealth is going in, right? But right now, you're not operating in stewardship. Right now, you're operating in ownership. Why? Because you are so proud to be the owner of that house, right? And I understand it is a major accomplishment for you to be a homeowner. But at the end of the day, what you want is control over that property, right? So you have to also do a mindset shift, right? To where you have to understand that the goal is not for you to be the owner of these assets. The goal is for you to control the assets while you're alive. Why? Because you have to understand that that house that you live in, that house is going to outlive you. If you don't wake up tomorrow, that house is still going to be there. So what you want is control of the house while you're living. And you can obtain that through stewardship by having that property be owned by the trust, you being the trustee of the trust and having full control over the asset in the trust, which is the home. Okay, so how do you actually transfer wealth, right? So the way that you transfer wealth is through TCUs. TCU stands for Trust Certificate Units. Trust Certificate Units are identical to stock certificates. So you know how stock certificates represent ownership in a company? Well, TCUs represents beneficial interest in a trust. So it's equivalent. It's like, it's almost the same thing, but with a trust, because we see it as a living, breathing entity that's equivalent to us, we do not use the term ownership. We use the term beneficial interest. Okay. So with a trust, right? Your trust, let's just say that your trust is established and now it's generating, now it actually created 100 trust certificate units. Those 100 trust certificate units are going to be dispersed to your beneficiaries. Let's just say that you have 4 beneficiaries. So that means that, you want for all 4 beneficiaries to receive equal disbursement of the TCUs. So now each beneficiary received 25 TCUs. So the number of TCUs that you have represents your beneficial interest. So let's just say that I'm one of your trustees and I have 25 TCUs and your trust has a net worth of $1 million. Well, that means that I have 25% beneficial interest, which is actually equivalent to $250,000 of that $1 million that's inside of your trust estate. So that is what a TCU is, and that is how you're going to represent the beneficial interest in the event that the trust is expired. So in the event that the trust is expired, then whoever is a TCU holder, they will receive the assets that are inside of the trust. So let's just say that the trust, has, I don't know, 100 properties, right? And I have 25 TCUs. That means that I'm going to receive 25 properties from that trust, right? So that's what, that is why TCUs are so vitally important. And that is, how we're actually representing the transfer of wealth, right? Because that's something that we just do not talk about, right? So we are out here talking about, I'm building generational wealth, right? But we never talk about how are we going to transfer this wealth? How are we going to protect this wealth? how are we going to preserve this wealth, right? And so this is what it looks like, right? So when you're transferring wealth, you need to have it inside of a trust estate, and you need to have your beneficiaries become trust certificate unit holders, TCU holders, okay? Let's move on to the next one, which is preservation. Preservation is so important. Why? Because when you're building generational wealth, there's a key word in there, generation, right? So that means that the wealth needs to last many generations. But unfortunately, we see this all the time. We see it with celebrities, with athletes, with famous families, that the wealth disappears. The wealth does not even last the second or third generation. Why? Because they don't have these tools in place in order to ensure that the wealth is going to be preserved. So there's two tools that you need. The first tool is a trust, okay? So unfortunately, we've seen it, right? Celebrities, right? Famous people, they have all these millions of dollars and no trust, right? They end up in probate, lose all of the wealth, right? So the first thing you need is a trust. The second thing you need is life insurance, okay? So how does that work, right? Well, you have to understand that everything that you consider an asset is insured, everything. So your car is insured, your house is insured, right? Most of your electronics are insured. So everything that's considered an asset is insured, right? So with that being said, you are what we call a human asset. You are a human asset, or what we call human capital, inside of a trust. Why? Because you're the MVP, you're the most important, most valuable player, right? Most important person, because you're the trustee. You're the individual that is operating the trust on a day-to-day basis, that is growing the wealth inside of the trust, that has full control over the assets, makes all the decisions for the trust. So you are a human asset or a key player in this whole entire trust organization. If anything happens to you, guess what? The trust is going to suffer a loss, right? The trust is going to be devastated if anything happens to you. So if the trust is going to experience a loss because something happens to you, the trust needs to be compensated for that loss, because the trust just lost the trustee, the most important person, right? So what happens is, the way that we design it is, the trust is going to take out a life insurance policy, right? Specifically cash value, whole life, index universal life, on every single person associated with the trust. Meaning you, the trustee, all of the beneficiaries, and all of the future beneficiaries. Why? Because the trust is now going to be the owner of that policy. You are going to be the insured, so that means that your life is insured. The trust is going to pay the premiums, and it's going to be deducted, right? Tax deducted. And then the trust is going to be the beneficiary. So that in the event that something happens to you, the trust is compensated. So if you didn't wake up tomorrow, that $3 million death benefit that you have associated with that policy goes straight to the trust fund, and the trust is now replenished with $3 million that the trust didn't have yesterday. Okay? So that is how you're going to ensure that money keeps on coming into the organization. Why? Because, right, the trust is, or the trustee are instructed to take out a life insurance policy on every single person associated with the trust, meaning the beneficiaries, all the future beneficiaries. So if there's a beneficiary that is born into the trust, when that baby, which we call a trust fund baby, is 30 days old, then the trust or the trustee is instructed to take out a life insurance policy on that trust fund baby. So now the trust is going to be paying the premium, paying into this cash value that's accumulating, right? And that's accumulating and earning compound interest from 30 days old. So now what's going to happen is this trust fund baby, right? Which we need to normalize trust fund babies. It's a wonderful thing. This trust fund baby grows up and is now 18 years old. So the trust fund baby is obviously a beneficiary of the trust, right? And so it's time to go to college. They need their first car. So what are their options, right? So they can go down to the dealership and take out a loan for $30,000 from the dealership, and now start getting a car payment for $800-900 a month and pay the actual car dealership, right? So that's what they can do. Or what they can do is they can go to the trust and they can request a loan. So within the trust organization, trustees and beneficiaries can issue loans to the trust and can also request or take loans from the trust. So that trust fund baby that's now 18 years old and needs the first car, instead of them going to the dealership and paying 30% in taxes and paying 30% in interest and have a car note for $900, they go to the trust and they request a loan for $30,000 so that they can buy their first car. And so now the trust is going to issue them a promissory note and charge them a little 2%, right? So now the trust is earning a little 2% interest. And so now, instead of the trust fund baby paying the dealership $900, the trust fund baby is now going to pay the trust $300 a month, right? For that loan. So now let's just say fast forward into the future, a year later, the trust fund baby, right? That beneficiary decides to default. They don't want to pay the trust anymore. It was actually a risk-free loan. So it's okay that they default because it was a risk-free loan. And the reason why it was a risk-free loan was because the money did not come from the trust. The money came from that trust fund baby, that beneficiary's life insurance policy. So what happened was, once that beneficiary requested a loan, the trustee contacted the insurance carrier and requested a loan for the $30,000. That $30,000 came from the carrier's reserves from that life insurance company's money, was directly deposited, that $30,000, into the trust fund. Then the trustee issued a check for the $30,000 to the beneficiary. So that loan does not need to be paid back. That loan is going to be deducted from the beneficiary's death benefit. So once that beneficiary expires, guess what happens? Their death benefit of $5 million goes straight into the trust fund, and the trust is replenished. That is preservation of wealth. So that's why it's so vitally important that you have the tools necessary to ensure that your wealth is not going to be dissipated, that the future generations are not going to just spendthrift and have the money disappear. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so these are the books that I recommend. I recommend that you read What Would the Rockefellers Do? That's a really good book that teaches you about the marriage between a trust and life insurance. The second one is The Art of Passing the Buck, volume 1 and 2. So that teaches you about trusteeship and how to actually operate trust. The next one is Family Wealth. That teaches you about how to run your family like a business. It's so vitally important. It's called a family office. And so that is how you want to run your family, like an organization, right? So you're the CEO of your family. You're the trustee of your family. And then the last one is the Complete Book of Trust, which teaches you about the hundreds of different types of trust that I was, that I had mentioned earlier. So what you want to do is you want to set up a trust, right? Take action on the information that I provided today, you guys, right? It's so vitally important. So I'm going to show you a quick little video of a trustee that took action on the information that I provided tonight.
Well, kudos to you all. Again, Christina, it's been a wonderful experience. I've been looking at your videos on YouTube for a while, and there are a number of people offering trust these days, and I guess that's the big thing. Don't own anything, control everything. That kind of, I didn't say it correctly, but that is the sentiment. And so it seems like the playing field is being leveled now from the rich and people who weren't privy to this information. So thank you for being such a great asset to a community that didn't have this information. And you made it so simple. Thank you for the recordings. Thank you for the step-by-step instructions. Things that we can go back and look at. So we do appreciate you. And thank you, Mondo. That was a great explanation of infinite banking. I know a number of people are talking about that, but they make it so complex. And his presentation was nice and succinct and very informative. So this has been an overall great experience. Definitely will recommend you to others.
All right, guys, so take action on the information that I provided tonight, because it could be your new form of doing business and making profit, right? So it can actually help you solve a lot of the problems, especially when it comes to asset protection and to saving on taxes, as well as you being properly structured and operating, okay? So you want to treat this like a big business. You don't want to treat this like a small mom and pop shop. So you want to look at your organization like it's a Walmart, like it's an Amazon, a Facebook, right? And so that's why you definitely need to have trust within your structure, and you need to have multiple trusts within your structure, not just one trust, okay? You do not want to put all of your assets in one trust, okay? So let's work together. I do have a program that teaches you step by step on how to actually set up these trusts. And we provide you with the templates, okay? So we provide you with the templates so that you can actually set up the trust that I've been explaining in this call. So the business trust, the family trust, and the nonprofit tax exempt trust, okay? So the first option is do it yourself. Do it yourself comes with 43 video modules, and that's going to teach you step by step on how to actually set up the trust. And it breaks down every single paragraph. So I'm about to show you what one of the trusts looks like so that you can become familiar with what this trust contract looks like, right? And so with the modules, you will just watch the video, you download the templates, and you start customizing it for you, for your business organization, and for your family, okay? And then you get lifetime access to the course, which is amazing. So, 2 years down the line, if you need to create a new trust for, a certain endeavor, then you get to go ahead and access your course and start the process all over again, okay? You also get the ebooks. So the books that I just recommended, you get them in an electronic version. Some of those books are valued at over $800, right? And so you get them included in the program through an electronic version, and then you get the resources that you need. So every single resource that you're going to need in order to operate a trust entity, we give it to you. So for example, if you need tax forms, we give it to you. If you need to transfer your assets like properties or businesses, we give you the templates that you need, right? So just be aware of that. And then we also have a private Facebook community. In the Facebook community, you can engage with other members. You can you can post and put questions in there. And then we also have a Telegram chat where you get to network with like-minded individuals that are also trustees that have already gone through what you're about to go through, that have already been operating their trust for a couple years now, or that they have already, put their assets inside of the trust, build business credit with the trust, things of that nature. And so you get access to the other community members. So we have about 600 trustees in our community. So the do-it-yourself option is for people who are independent and they, really don't need that much assistance, and it's only $997 for the do-it-yourself. Okay. The second option is Done With You. So Done With You is where we do it together on a group call. Okay, so we do it on a group Zoom call, just like how we're meeting right now on Zoom. And it is a week long, so it's Monday through Friday. So our next workshop is actually next week. Okay, so it's next week, Monday through Friday. So on Monday, we set up the business trust together. So what I do is I break down every single paragraph of the trust. So the business trust is 52 pages, you guys. It's very important for you to understand and know the contents of your trust if you're going to operate the trust. Okay, I've seen it so many times where individuals, they'll go to like attorneys or other companies and they'll just hand them a stack of papers and send them on their way, right? Won't even educate them on what's inside of the trust, right? And so they're just pretty much setting you up for failure, and that's not what you want. You need to learn the contents of the trust so that you effectively operate it, okay? And so that's what we teach you here. We teach you how to effectively operate your trust and for you to be very efficient in that operation, okay? So with that being said, Monday, we set up the business trust together. So I break down every single paragraph and then we dive into Q&A. Tuesday, we set up the family trust together and then we dive into Q&A. Wednesday, we set up the nonprofit trust together and we dive into Q&A. Thursday, we do board meetings. We apply for the EINs with the IRS. We learn about business credit. And then I have a specialist who's a guest speaker he comes in and teaches you about funding so that you can actually acquire funding for your trust fund, okay? So you don't have to use your own money. And then on Friday, we focus on transferring assets. So I teach you guys how to do quick claim deeds so that you can move your real estate into the trust. I teach you guys how to do the business purchase agreement so that you can have your trust be the owner of your businesses, and then how to transfer the vehicles through the bill of sale. And then we have a guest speaker who comes in and teaches us about the infinite banking, okay? So teaches us about the cash value life insurance policies and how to utilize that with the trust in order to build wealth, okay? So the workshop is from 11 in the morning a.m. until 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And once again, with the Done With You, you do get the course with the 43 video modules. You get the Facebook community, you get the Telegram chat, but you get, you get assistance and accountability, right? because one thing for sure is that when you're in a space like a Zoom call with other individuals, they're asking questions that you didn't even know you wanted to know. And so you actually get to learn more by just being in that environment, okay? And then after the workshop, the following week, you can book a one-on-one with me and I'll review all of your documents before you go and get them notarized and start opening up your bank accounts and transferring assets. So the workshop is only $2,500. And then the last option is do it one-on-one. That is for individuals who need individualized support, extended support. And so it's a private session between me and you, okay? So it's not a group, and you actually get extended Zoom call. So the minimum is 5 sessions. Sometimes it ends up being 8, 9, it just depends. But you still get access to the workshop and the course, but we actually are hands-on and we do it for you and notarize and things of that nature, right? And so you get the sense and security to know that everything is done correctly. And so with the do it one-on-one, since it's private sessions, it's only $10,000. So those are your options, you guys. And so all you have to do is go to wealthytrustee.com in order to sign up. And so for the individuals that are on the call today, we are offering 50% off. So we're offering 50% off actually until the workshop starts on Monday, okay? So from today up until Monday when the workshop starts, you can enjoy 50% off. All you have to do is go to our website and actually use the discount code TRUST50, okay? So now what I want to do is, let me see, I'll show you my contact information and then I'll show you what the trust looks like. So if you have any questions, you can call us here using this number. You can go to the website, wealthytrustee.com. You can send us an email, info@7waystowealth.com. And then you can also visit us on social media, okay? So now I want to show you what the actual trust looks like and then what the course looks like. So this is an example of one of the trust templates. So everything that you see in red is what you need to be customizing and filling out for your particular business, organization, or family, okay? So this trust is like over 60 pages. So everything that you see in red is what you're going to be customizing, okay? So this is just an example of one of the templates. And like I said, I break down every single paragraph of these 60 pages so that you can learn and understand and know what's inside of your trust so that you know how to operate it, okay? So that's the actual trust, and then this is what the course looks like. So this is the Wealthy Trustee program, you guys. Like I said, it comes with 43 lessons. So the first lessons is for you to learn what a trust entity is. So you learn what is a trust and the different parties involved, meaning the grantor, trustee, beneficiaries, successors, protectors, the benefits, the different types of trust. Then you learn about the tax exempt trust. So we go through the declaration, the articles, the bylaws, then you learn how to apply for the EIN. Then the same thing with the family trust. You go through the bylaws, you learn how to apply for the EIN. And then the same thing with the business trust. You go through the actual indenture, and then you learn about how to apply for the EIN, and then you have tax strategies. So you learn how to operate tax exempt with a tax exempt entity. You learn the difference between the 3 different types of trust and how they're for-profit and nonprofit and how to apply for these tax exempt statuses, okay? And how to not abuse taxes or do any type of tax evasion. That's not what we do here, okay? Then you learn about asset protection. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take an inventory of your asset. Then you learn how to create a bank account for your trust, how to open up a brokerage account for your trust, how to transfer the deeds, the car titles, the insurance policies, the businesses, and how to do board meetings, right? So what I've seen is that a lot of individuals, they will operate businesses or any type of entities, and they don't do board meetings, right? And so we show you the proper way to operate your entity. So the next thing is wealth creation. So that's where we show you how to build business credit with a trust. Then we show you how to invest it. So how to invest it in the stock market utilizing index funds and REITs. And then how to actually do the infinite banking with the insurance policies. And then we show you part of the preservation process, which is you setting up a legacy crest and a legacy statement for your trust. And then lastly is the resources that you're going to need in order to operate your trust efficiently, and the ebooks that you definitely want to read supplementally so that you can learn more about trusteeship. So with that, we are all done, you guys. So I'm going to open up the floor for any questions. You guys can raise your hand and ask any and all questions that you might have based on the information that we went over today. I know that it was a wealth of information. It was a lot. So I'm here to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Peace. Quick question about the pricing. Is it 50% off the prices that was just listed? So the $9.97 would be half off, or is that already half off?
That's a good question. Yeah, it's 50% off the price that you just saw. So that's the regular price. The regular price is $9.97, and we're only running the 50% off for the next 3 or 4 days. Just because we have a workshop going on. So we like to fill up the workshops. So with that being said, yeah, it's 50% off the price that you saw. So if you want to get into the do it yourself, then it will be $498.50.
Okay, thank you. Gratitude.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This is Mary Margaret.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, I am retired and I do not have a business. And we have just 2 pieces of property, our primary residence and another property. I don't know if, I mean, being that I don't have a business, would you still be counseling, or the workshops would be counseling somebody like me to set up a business trust?
So if you don't, so sometimes for individuals like you, this structure probably doesn't apply to you. So with individuals like you, what we'll do is we'll just set you up with one trust, which is a family trust, and then you can just put, you know, both of your residents inside of the family trust and whatever other assets you have, because that's what we call an asset holding trust. That's just for all of your personal assets, right? And then if you have children, you list them as the beneficiaries. So for individuals like yourself, we do have like a separate thing, which is done for you, and it's for one trust, and it's $2,500, and that's if you don't want, like, you know, don't want to do anything else, but we still give you access to the course for education purposes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Let me look in the chat as well. And then if you guys are interested in watching the replay, it is going to be available on YouTube. So we are streaming on YouTube right now, and you will be able to access the entire webinar on YouTube as soon as we're done. All right, next is Ivory. Hi, Ivory.
Hello, hello. Oh gosh, I was taking notes. I found you, stumbled upon you probably like maybe between 4 and 6 a.m. on YouTube. Okay, now how long does it take to transfer the assets? I might have missed that.
Oh, okay. I mean, it depends on you, right? So for example, like you can get it done the same day. So let's just say that you set up your trust this morning at 8 a.m. and you got it notarized, right? You know, by 10 a.m. you did your quit claim deed, right? And then by 12 p.m. you went down to the county and you submitted the new deed and they recorded it. You did it the same day. So
Oh, wow.
like we just helped somebody last week. They did it in 24 hours. It depends on you. How fast are you going to get your trust notarized? How fast are you going to get all of your documents that you need to transfer your assets? Right? So if you're doing quick claim deeds to deed over your residence, if you're doing bill of sales for the vehicle, and then how fast are you going to go down to the state or the county or the clerk of courts in order to submit those transfers?
Okay, thank you. Now, how many businesses can we have in one trust?
You can have multiple businesses in one business trust. So it depends. Also, what I will tell you too is that you want to think about you want to also separate it if you have high liability businesses and low liability businesses. So for example, if you're in like trucking or things with like heavy machinery or even sometimes real estate, right? Those are high liability businesses where you're liable to, you know, get sued, right? So you don't want to have that business in under the same business trust with like a retail store or an e-com store or, you know, Etsy shop or anything like that. So
Okay,
it just depends on the business.
okay. And you can make profit and nonprofit.
Yes.
Okay, and so I have a for-profit. It's not, you know, we're not really making a profit, but it's a for-profit and it is registered with sam.gov because I'm a veteran. Does that matter if that business is, and you know, if it goes under a trust and it's,
No. Yeah, it can still be under a trust.
okay, and what about, I'm sorry, I was writing the questions as we went. VA home loans, would we be able to do that with the trust?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So your mortgage is going to stay intact. Your VA loan, your mortgage is going to remain intact and it's going to remain still in your name. Okay. So the house is going to be under the trust, but the mortgage or the VA loan is still going to be attached to you.
Okay. So now I know this is going to be a crazy question, but can the grantor be like just anybody, just used for one time, just to get this notarized and never have to deal with them again?
Correct. Yeah, that's how it's designed because the grantor has no power and no control. So once they notarize it, they walk away from the trust.
Okay. I'm sorry. This is would we, okay, maybe I missed this and I'm sorry. Would the trust be used as a regular account? No, right? Because we'll be transferring it. I think you covered that. We'll be transferring it from back and forth from one account to the next.
Yeah, so each trust needs its own separate account. It could be a checking account, a savings account, a money market account, a brokerage account, a cash management account.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Okay.
All right, next we have Marcia.
Take my hand down.
Sorry. Hi.
Hi, Marcia.
I was wondering how much does it cost to fund the trust every year?
Yeah, you don't have to fund the trust every year. So you just do one initial funding, which is what we call a consideration. It has to be anything of value. So it could be $1 if you want it to be $1. So a lot of people have a misconception that they need $1 million in order to open up a trust. You don't. So you can fund the trust with anything of value. If you wanted to fund the trust with real estate, if you wanted to fund the trust with an antique, you know, heirloom or anything like that, you can do that. With precious metal, a lot of people use precious metal. So they'll use like gold or silver. So anything of value can fund the trust. And then when we're talking about the bank account, you have to put whatever the minimum is for whatever that bank requires. So some banks, their minimum requirement is $100. Some banks are $300. Some banks are $1,000. So it just depends on which financial institution you go to open up your trust fund with, how much you have to fund that account with.
Okay. The other question, I have a couple of questions. I had wrote down some, but I don't know what happened to them. I think they got lost. But earlier you were talking about divorce, right?
Yeah.
What happens if the person you're divorcing is in this trust with you? What happens then?
Yeah, it still can't be, it still cannot go through a divorce proceeding. So even if they, so for example, let's just say that they're, you know, a co-trustee or something like that. Whatever is inside of the trust can't be included in the divorce. So that would have to be a, you know, a separate like arrangement or litigation. But usually if you have issues within the trust organization, within parties that are a part of the trust organization, then you have to go to arbitration and mediation.
Okay. And another question I have is, you were talking about how the business trust can get sued. Where would that money come from inside the business trust if you lose that lawsuit? Is that the money that is being put into the account?
Correct. So whatever assets that are inside of the business trust, you know, can be at risk. And then the money from the business trust will usually come from
The businesses?
from whatever you're generating in the business.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. All right. Next we have Steve.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I think I have an appointment with you on Friday.
Oh, that's
This coming
awesome.
Friday on the 20th. I have a question. Well, a few questions. Can a grantor be a successor as well, or they have to be different people?
No, the grantor cannot hold any other position, only the grantor.
Okay. And so as far as retirement, which I am, but I have an LLC. If you have your business profile together and you get funding, can you use that to open up your business trust?
Yes,
If you
absolutely.
that's your thing. Okay, that's
Yeah, you
sounds
can. Yep, absolutely.
okay. And I have one other question. Oh yeah, if you have a mortgage, you can put that in an irrevocable trust, correct? But you can still
Correct.
operate it, and you can still, if you want to do a HELOC, you can still do whatever you need to do.
Yeah,
Yeah, and be
absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, you can refinance, you can get a second mortgage, or you can do a HELOC, all with a trust.
Okay. And if you have some property, some land property, and you put that into a trust, you can still sell it if you want to sell it, or how does that work? What we want to hold it
Yeah.
and keep it, buy and hold it, or sell it?
Yeah, so you as a trustee are able to do anything that you feel is in the best interest of the estate. So if you feel that it's in the best interest of the estate for you to sell the land, you can sell the land. So all you would have to do is just remove it from the trust once it's sold. So you would be the authorized signer at the closing table. So you would do everything regular as if it was like you doing it on like a natural person, right? You'll put up the land for sale, you'll go to the closing table. As a trustee, you sign, and then you go ahead and make an amendment with the trust that you remove that piece of property or real estate from the trust. You'll have a meeting about it saying that you decided to sell the property.
But it still would be in the name of the trust, not in my name when I'm selling it.
Correct. Yeah, but you're the one who's
Okay,
going to sign for it if you're the trustee.
gotcha. Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much. I'll
You're
talk to you
so
on
welcome.
Friday.
Thank you. Talk
Okay.
to you Friday. Awesome.
Okay. Bye bye.
All right. Trina had a question. She said, can a trust have a Roth? Yeah. So a trust can have brokerage accounts, and so they can have regular brokerage accounts, or they can have Roth IRA accounts. So it just depends on the brokerage. We like Fidelity. Some people go with Charles Schwab as well. Next we have Ingrid.
Yes, hi. I'm sorry you can't see me now. I don't know how to turn this on, but I'm really grateful for the information that I received. However, I'm in the process of creating a business. It is not for profit. I mean, I hadn't made any profit yet. I'm still learning how I'm going to go about making money or raising funds or whatever, or even selling my products. The fact is that if I get a trust now, and then I'm still adding stuff. I don't own any property. I don't own anything but just my insurance policies and, and my investment account. So I'm just trying to understand, do I need to get all this stuff first and then do the trust, or get the trust and then as I obtain stuff, I just put it in the trust?
Yeah, so you want to get the trust, and as you obtain, so first of all, you already have assets.
I have
So
money.
because you already have assets, yeah,
Okay.
because you already have assets, you want to put those assets in the trust. And when you go and start accumulating more assets, you will have them in the trust.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so with the business, did you create it already, or you haven't created it?
Well, I just purchased my domain and everything, and I'm just, I'm still at the formative stage of what I want to do. It's just that I'm 60 years old, and
Mhm.
when you said an IUL, that doesn't fit me. An IUL would not benefit me, I don't think. So I'm like, when you say purchase an insurance policy, I'm like, well, how am I going to do that? You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we have older individuals that get IULs. So
Okay.
I don't remember what the age restriction is, but I think it's close to 85 or something like that. But
Okay.
but um what people in your position, if they want to get an IUL and they want to reap the benefits of it, usually what they'll do is they'll get the IUL under the younger generation. So under their children or their grandchildren, and it's still
Mm-hmm.
be in the name of the trust, and you're going to be the trustee. So you're still the owner of the policy, but the policy is insuring a younger person.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
but it's still your policy, and you get to reap all of the benefits of that policy.
So I can but I would be able to borrow from that
Absolutely.
policy?
Everything.
Oh,
No
okay.
limitations. You'll do everything. You're the trustee. The policy is owned by the trust. You do everything for that policy.
Okay. 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 Well,
Yeah.
it looks like I'll be getting a trust in. Okay.
Yeah,
60 is a new 50.
Oh, yeah, okay. I'll be
exactly.
getting to see this.
It's
Okay.
true. It's true.
Okay, because
Yeah.
because the thing is that, when you don't have property, I don't own anything. I have a lot of assets, caught up into my stocks and investments and everything like that. So I have that, but I want to start some kind of business, and so I'm just like trying to see, do I get the business, then get the trust, or do I get the trust and then I just keep adding to it? So you
Yeah,
answered
so
my question.
I always tell people you want to set up the business trust before you set up the business. Why? Because if you set up the business today, you're going to have to put that business in your personal name. From the formation standpoint, when you're establishing the articles of
Uh-huh.
organization or incorporation, you're going to have to
Yeah.
put your name on it. But if you have the business trust already, then you just going to put the business trust name on it, and you never have to put your name on it. So if you don't already have an established business, then you want to do it the right way the first time, rather
Yeah.
than doing what everyone else does, which is they have to do amendments and they have to make changes and they have to send paperwork to the state in order to get their name off.
Oh, I see. Oh,
You're in
okay.
a good position, Ingrid.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
well, this makes more sense. Well, then I could go shopping. I need to buy some. I need to buy this program. Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, so
Okay. Well, thank.
we're here to help.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. So Andre said, what if you already have an EIN associated with your business? Every single entity will have its own separate EIN. You have a business, that business has an EIN. You cannot use that EIN for your trust. Your trust needs to apply for its own EIN.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. Next, we have Jamal. Hey, Jamal.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for the information.
You're welcome.
I have a question. If I want to transfer my paycheck into the name of the trust, what would I have to do?
Oh, that's a good question. That actually depends on your employer, because most employers, if your W-2 is going to be very difficult, because employers are not going to want to do that. So the way that you're paid is through your W-4. On your W-4, you put your name and your social, right? And so what you would have to do is you would have to submit a new W-4 to your employer, and you would have to put the name of the trust, and you would have to put the EIN of the trust.
Right.
So I'm gonna quickly show you what that looks like. And hold on one second, let me share my screen here. Hold on, let me see. Hold on, W.
And you would have to pay taxes on that, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah, you still have to pay taxes.
Right, right.
Yeah, so if you're 1099, then it works. But if you're not 1099, then it's very difficult, and it depends on your employer. Some employers do say yes and some say no, right? So this is the form with the IRS, but you have to submit this to your employer, okay? And then they submit it to the IRS. So this is the taxpayer, the 10 certification. So normally the way that you have it right now, if you're a W-2 and you're paid by your name and social, then you put your name there and you checked individual, and then down here you put your social, your address, and you signed, right? If you want the trust to be paid, then here you're going to skip number 1, you're going to put the name of the trust, and number 2, you're going to put the trustee / estate, so you're going to check here, and then you're going to put the trust address, and then you're going to put the trust EIN number, and then you're going to sign as the trustee and date it as the trustee. So that's the process that it takes, but most employers are not going to allow you to do that unless you're 1099.
Okay. And that was the W-9, correct?
Yeah, yes, that's the W-9, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So just go to HR and ask.
Okay, perfect. I appreciate it. Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. All right, perfect. Thank you. All right, next we have Marcia.
Hey, I remembered some more of the questions that I had.
All righty, sounds good.
Can you put a non-for-profit organization in a trust?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, so most people, they're gonna put the nonprofit trust to own the nonprofit organization.
Okay, which is like the faith-based church you were talking about earlier?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The other question I have is this a different um is this a different live? Because I a while ago I came across your live, but I think it had 4 or 5 trusts that all trickled down into each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and I only see 3 this time.
Mm.
Are the other 2 or 3 no longer something that's good, or?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. It's always been 3, and I told people that a 4th is coming.
Okay.
So there's a 4th that's coming. The 4th is an international trust. So we're gonna have that available in the program coming soon. Hopefully by December or January, we'll have that available. And so if you're a part of the program, then you're just grandfathered in and you get access to the international trust that we're adding.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago. You had put it up and it was a couple of trusts. But okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me see here. So the next question was about the replay. So yeah, you can watch the replay on our YouTube channel. So if you click the link, let me see, where's the link for our YouTube channel? If you click the link for our YouTube channel, definitely subscribe because you're gonna learn a lot of information on there. And you can watch this whole entire replay back. And then the next question I saw here was, hold on. Oh, okay, it was about the deposit. So if you guys are interested in securing your spot for the 50% off, but let's just say that you don't have the entire amount right now, what you can do is you can place a deposit. The deposit is only $200, and then that'll secure your spot in order for you to be able to maintain that discount of 50% off. All right, and then let me see. Okay, next we have Ingrid.
Yes. Hi. Again, my last question, because I couldn't find my notes, is I was told, and this is by way of passing, that I should not name this trust after my name. Am I correct?
Yes, you're absolutely correct. Please do not name the trust after yourself. Just use
Something else.
something else. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of people use the word holdings, they use family, they use dynasty, legacy, they use a bunch of other stuff.
Okay. I'll check with ChatGPT.
Yeah, I know, I use it too.
Okay, thank you. That was it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Andre said, but can you only contribute a certain percentage or be subject to tax? So I think you're talking about a certain percentage for the donation. So for W-2 employees, it's 60%. For corporations, it's 25%. Let me see. How many times are you able to borrow from yourself and not pay back? So it's unlimited, right? So you can borrow whatever is available, right? So if you have, if you have $10,000 available in your cash value and you want to borrow, $1,000 every week for the next 10 weeks, you can do that, right? But then once that 11th week comes and you don't have any cash value available to borrow, you're not going to get a loan, right? So it's you borrow what's available. Let's see here. I have some of these things in place already, but need help and guidance to achieve final step. Absolutely. So we help you step by step in putting everything together. All right, next. Did I call on you, Ingrid? I'm gonna put your hand down if I called on you. All right. Next we have Adarsh. Did I say
Oh,
your
hi.
name?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Okay, awesome.
So if I have rental property in my name and I've taken, depreciation, bonus depreciation, and so on, And now if I transfer this to a trust, what happens to the depreciation which I took against my personal name? And now going forward, the trust has to take whatever remaining depreciation is, right? So could you talk about that, how that transitions?
Yeah, so the depreciation is still going to be the same. So if you go on the 1041 form, you're still able to deduct depreciation. So hold on one second, let me pull it up.
Yeah, but I took depreciation against my tax ID. Right now, I'll be transferring this asset into the trust ID, and then future depreciations would be against the trust ID. So does the depreciation clock resets from the beginning, or you just continue from where you left off?
You continue from where you left off.
Okay, but that with the trust ID now, right? Under the trust,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's going to be on the 1041, and it's going to be under the trust EIN.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, let's see who's next. So V said this should be taught in all colleges, especially the HBCUs. Okay, TCUs learn something new. Power information. It sounds quite necessary, intimidating. Let's see. Establish LLC, but not trust. Okay, so some people were asking about the package for $14.97. So the package that was $14.97, it is the workshop for $2,500. So the price did go up to $2,500. So like I said, if you want to enjoy the 50% off, then go ahead and either put the $200 deposit if you don't have the entire amount, or go ahead and purchase it for the 50% off, because it's just going to be available until Monday, and then you can get into the workshop for Monday. Let's see. Yep, so the discount code is trust50. And Trina said, honestly, today's Zoom was worth $500. Awesome. It's absolutely free. So someone asked about a payment plan. We do have payment plan options available. So if you go to our website, www.wealthytrustee.com, you'll be able to see like the prices and the payment plans that we have. If any of those payment plans don't work for you, we do customized payment plans. So if you want to break it up into 2 or 3 or 4 or 10, just let us know, and then we can set you up with a custom payment plan. Let's see here. So yeah, so the replay is available on YouTube. So we're live streaming right now. So you can just go straight to the video, and then you can rewind it to the beginning. Justin said, do you need a lawyer? So, and I'm confused. I'm confused because how you could start a trust without a lawyer. So a trust is a contract, okay? You do not need a lawyer in order to set up a contract. So for example, if you have a house and you wanted to rent out your property and you wanted to create a lease agreement, that's a contract. So the lease agreement is between you and the tenant. You can go to a lawyer and the lawyer can create the lease agreement, or you can create the lease agreement yourself, because by law, you are able to create your own contracts. Okay, the same thing with an LLC, right? So with an LLC, you can go down to the Secretary of State's website and you can go ahead and create that LLC on your own. You just fill out their articles of organization form, you pay the fee, and boom, you have an LLC. Or you can go to a lawyer and the lawyer can create the LLC for you and do everything that you're able to do on your own. So with that being said, you can create a contract between anyone, so meaning grantor and trustee, and you can have it be a legally binding contract, which is a trust, and you do not need a lawyer or an attorney for that. So Yeah, just do your research, but yeah, you can create your own trust. Next we have Trina.
Hi, I had actually started typing one of my questions in the
Oh,
chat.
yes, I see it in there.
Did you want me to say it out loud or?
Yeah, go for it.
See. So basically what I wanted to know is, let's say if you've had some properties that you have not filed taxes for yet, let's say like the current year and last year, could you create a trust and then make it applicable to those tax years and file then?
No, it's only going to be moving forward from when the trust came into existence. It doesn't apply to any back taxes.
Okay, all right. And then my next question was, I plan on doing the deposit, and with the code that you have in place, is it possible to take the October class?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one in October is going to be the last week of October. So I think it's like 28th to November 1st. So you
Okay,
have
that's good to know.
you have lifetime access to all the workshops. So some of our trustees attend every single workshop every month.
Oh, all right. And I guess even if you're providing installment plans and things like that, I could still do next week's, provided I continue, making the payments timely and stuff like that. And
Actually, no. So you have to be paid in full in order to attend live.
got it. Okay. Thanks for clarifying that.
You're so welcome.
And I think my last question was, which was my most important question of all that I can't think of right now. So I'll just circle back. Oh, I know what it was. I came in maybe 15, 20 minutes after you started. So you may have mentioned this, but I'm just curious, because you are very knowledgeable about this, about trustees, trusts and stuff like that. How did you get started in this and so versatile in it, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh yeah, I did mention it. Yes. So I was a registered nurse by trade, and I needed a second stream of income. So I became a real estate investor, and my mentor, he had 200 million in real estate, and all of his properties were in a trust. And so he told me that I needed to put my first little property. It was a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I bought it for 89,000. I sold it for $235,000. But it was being renovated, and so I was at risk, right? Because anything could happen during renovations, because I was doing fixing and flipping. So anything could happen. Somebody could step on a nail, somebody could get hit with plywood, anything could happen. And then guess what? They sue you and they take your property from you. And so once he told me that, he said, you need to put the property in a trust. And so I put the property in a trust, and I became a trustee and started operating in trust. And that was in 2015. So that's just how I started.
And here we are today.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks so much. I appreciate the nuggets.
You're welcome. All right. So let me see. I have a few questions here. The first one is from Eric. He said that what is the difference between the two programs? He's do it yourself, and the other one has the workshop. So the workshop is done with you. So we help you. So you get more accountability, and you get to attend live, ask questions. We get everything done in 1 week, and then after the workshop, you get private sessions with me. So usually it's 1 to 2 private sessions for me to review everything. So you don't get any of that with do it yourself. Do it yourself is really what it is, which is you're on your own, and it's independent learning, and you can only go based off of the modules. And if you have a question, you have to put it inside of our community, or email it to us. So there's a big difference between do it yourself and done with you. So you get more support and accountability and assistance, and it's not only me, it's my team too. So they're here to help. Let me see here. So what is the question? Do you say that the price is the same or cover along with the business? So with the business trust. So with all three of them, with do it yourself, done with you, or do it one-on-one, they all come with all three trusts. So they all come with the business trust, the family trust, and the tax exempt trust. All right, next we have Steve. Hey, Steve.
I am for a couple. I tried to put down the down
Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on
deposit.
1 second. Is there two Steves? Because I see Steve Brown.
Yeah.
Oh,
Steve
Oh,
Brown.
okay, go. I'm
yeah,
gonna.
let's see Brown. Let's see Brown go first.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you so much. I see his hand up first. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
How you doing, Christina?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine. I appreciate all the information that you've given us and all of that.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's my pleasure.
Yeah. I actually purchased one of your books, the Slingshot book, and I
Oh,
learned a
nice.
lot. Yeah, and I learned a lot from it. You know, you helped me get in a lot of things. So, you know what I'm saying? I definitely tuned into this. And I had a couple of questions. One of the questions was about like the life insurance, and when you say you could borrow from the life insurance,
Yeah.
like if like you saying a scenario like if your kids wanted to like get a car or something, they could borrow the money from the life insurance and then just pay the life insurance back.
Yeah.
So would that come with like an interest on the money that they paying back?
Yeah, it does. So they charge you a small percentage of interest. So usually it depends on the carrier. Usually it's something small. So it could be like maybe 3%. I've seen 2.5, I've seen 3, I've seen 3.5. So that's how much interest they're going to charge you on the loan because you are borrowing their funds. Right? But you have to also understand that you're earning interest on the money that's intact in your cash value. So let's just say that you're earning 9%. So you're earning 9%, but you took out a loan for 3. So that means you're going to net 6%.
So you saying once we put the money in there and then we take out a loan, the money that we put in there is still gaining interest on. So if it was $5,000 in there, then we put $5,000 in there, it's gaining interest on $10,000, and then we just borrow $5,000 for like if we want to pay something like pay mortgage or anything like that, but we'll still be gaining the interest on $10,000.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, so the interest that we paying from the $5,000 back to the insurance company, do we get any portion of that interest, or is that just going to the insurance company?
So if the insurance company is charging you 3%, that whole 3% is going to dump. But remember, let's just say that you're earning 9% on the 5,000 or the 10,000. You're earning the 9%, but you're paying the insurance company the 3% for the loan for the 5K.
Okay. So and another question that I had, you were saying about the nonprofits. You were saying how you could transfer money into nonprofits. So once you transfer the money in a nonprofit organization, like what could you do with it? Like once it's in there?
Yeah, so there's two things that you can do. One, you can build wealth within that nonprofit, right? So what you can do is you can invest in businesses. You could also acquire assets. So you could acquire like real estate, crypto, stocks, REITs, all kind of stuff. So you can do any and all kind of investments. There's no limitation. And then, so that's one thing. And then the second thing is that you as a trustee, you can take out loans and your loans are tax free. So you don't pay any type of, you don't pay taxes on loans. So if you needed to borrow against the funds in that trust, you can.
Okay, so if it's $5,000, if you allocate $5,000 to the nonprofit, you can't just spend it like on personal things like that.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No,
Okay,
so you would have to take out a loan if you needed to spend it on personal things that's not related to that trust or the purpose or, for the trust.
Okay, so you take out a loan for no interest, right?
Correct.
And
Yeah,
then
you create the terms.
okay, and then once you put it back in there, do it stay in there?
Yeah.
Put it Put it back in where? Put it back in the trust?
once you pay the loan back from the nonprofit, it stays in the nonprofit.
Yeah, and yeah, you can, so it'll go back into the nonprofit and then you want to invest it. You want to put it somewhere else. You want to park it somewhere where it's growing.
Right,
Yeah.
put it to work.
Yep,
Yeah.
put it to work. Yep.
Yeah, but if it ain't enough to put it like buy like no real estate with it or nothing like, and you ain't familiar with the stock market or nothing like, what could you do with like $2,000 or something like an investment?
Yeah, so you can just leave it in there. And so that's what we call principal. So if you have money that's just sitting inside of your trust and it's not in any investments or anything, you can use it for, for operating funds, or we just call it the principal.
Okay. All right. And that first packet that you were saying, to do it yourself, all of them videos, it explain all of that in depth and all of that, like how you explained
Everything.
it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything step by step, everything.
Okay. So I just go to the website and then I can purchase and just put the trust 50 in there, right, for the half price,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
You're so welcome, Steve. All right. And so next we have the next Steve. Hey, Steve Campbell.
Just quickly, I tried to put the deposit down on my phone and not with my laptop. It's not going through. Just want to know I'm okay with the discount.
Oh, say that again. So you say you try to put the deposit and it didn't go through?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm not with, maybe it could be my phone and not my laptop. I don't have my laptop with me presently, but I just want to know I'm okay with the discount. I'll be talking to you Friday anyway, so I just want to make sure I'm okay with the discount.
Yeah, you can have the discount. So just whenever whenever you are, what are you looking to start next week?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, so if you're looking to start next week and you just want to pay in full, you don't have to do the deposit.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so
the deposit is just for when? For future?
No, the deposit is for those who are not gonna pay in full, but they want to secure the 50% off discount, then they'll put a deposit and then they'll create a payment plan later. So
I
those,
got you.
yeah, those are not for individuals who are able to start now.
Got you. Okay. That's I understand now. Okay.
All right.
That's all I needed.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
excited. I'm excited. I'm excited that you're
As well.
that you're gonna enroll into the program. So yeah, looking forward to helping you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks. Have a good night.
You too. Good night. All right. Next we have Ingrid. Ingrid, are you still with us? Okay. Next we have Marsha.
What's the difference? My phone kind of went out. What's the difference between the do-it-yourself and the other one with the price points?
Okay, so the do-it-yourself is $997, and that is independent. So you get access to the course, which is the 43 video modules. You get access to all 3 templates, all the resources that you need in order to operate your trust. And then you get access to our Facebook community and our Telegram chat. So it's independent. So that means that you're just going to watch the videos, download the template, fill it out yourself. And so that the normal price is $997 and you get to enjoy 50% off of that price. The second option is the workshop. We started next week. And that's done with you where we do it together. So just like how we're on a Zoom call right now, and there's 26 people on there. That's how the workshop is. So the workshop usually is like anywhere between 15 to 30 people, and we'll do it together. So I'm going to be breaking down every single paragraph of the trust. And so each day is designated for different things. So Monday is designated for the business trust. We set it up together, and then you ask me your questions live, and we go through everything together live. So I'm holding your hand through the process.
All right.
And I'm keeping you accountable. My team is keeping you accountable. Then Tuesday, family trust. Wednesday, nonprofit trust. Thursday, we have the guest speaker coming in teaching about funding, business funding, and business credit. We do EINs and board meetings. And then Friday, we do transferring of assets. So we do quick claim deeds, business purchase agreements, bill of sales, and then we learn about the infinite banking. So it's very organized, it's very structured. If you do it yourself, 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to do it the way that we do it.
Okay.
So you're going to be, all over the place, or you're going to be, some people, they are like delayed and they take their sweet time and they don't have accountability, and then they let a month go by and then they never set up their trust and all this stuff. So if you do it with the workshop, we hold you accountable, you get it done in 1 week, and you start actually operating.
Okay. And how much is that one?
That one's 2,500, and then you can get half off, so it ends up being 1,250.
Okay. Okay.
If you take advantage of the discount. Some people don't take advantage of the discount.
And can the second one be, can you put a deposit down for that?
Yeah, you can put a $200 deposit, and then you can roll into a payment plan.
Okay. And you said it with the discount it'd be $1,250.
Yeah, so if you put the $200 deposit, we'll lock you in at that rate.
Okay. All right. And that link is in the chat somewhere?
Yeah, it's in the chat. It says deposit.
Okay. Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, and then Trina said she said, thanks for the excellent Zoom this evening. We'll be sure to sign up and watch the replay night. Awesome. Thank you so much, Trina, for being here and for asking good questions. We appreciate you. Jordan said, are all state laws the same for trust? No. So that is one of the things that I explained earlier today, which is you have statutory trust and you have non-statutory trust. So for statutory trust, all of the state statutes for that specific state is embedded in those types of trusts. Those types of trusts are public trusts. They're registered. Everyone is going to know of the existence of your trust, and you're limited to only operating that trust in that state. Okay. And then the opposite of a statutory trust is a non-statutory trust, which is a private trust that operates outside of that jurisdiction, and it operates in the common law jurisdiction. All right. Next we have Stan.
Hi, good evening. First of all, done a wonderful job. I really enjoyed all the information, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Stan. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, so the example that you gave earlier was as far as having your pay from your job or business going directly into the trust. I heard you tell the young man how to do the W-9 and all that. So say all that's set up now, and that 5,000 is now going into the account. Every just monthly paycheck, we'll use your example, is going into the trust. You then in turn request a loan so you can, like you said, pay your bill, pay your mortgage, pay your food. Explain how's that set up because that has to be paid back. How's that process work? Because that will be a recurring thing monthly. If you're doing 5,000 a month and you're receiving 5,000 a month going into the trust, you have to then in turn get that money back to pay the rent every month. How does that process work?
Yeah, so you don't have to pay the loans back. Paying the loan back is optional. So that's one thing that I said earlier, is that when you take out the loan, you can choose to pay yourself back. If you choose to pay yourself back, then you're just going to be earning more compound interest. So you're just going to be putting more money into your cash value policy and earning more money. You don't have to pay yourself back. If you don't pay yourself back, then that money is just going to be deducted from your death benefit when that time comes, when your policy activates the death benefit.
Got you. Got you. All right. Well, thank you very much. I understand that now. Appreciate you. Thank you.
You're so welcome. All right. And I think I had one more question in the chat. Let me see. So, hi, I paid a down payment on September. I'd like to join a class on Monday. Okay, that's Patricia. Okay, I'm gonna send you a message, Patricia. And so, someone asked, what time is the Zoom call? The Zoom call is 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's every single day, Monday through Friday. So for specific time, I think that's 8. So I think that's 8, 9, 10, 11, 8 to 11 for you, if you're PST. And then how much to upgrade from do it yourself to done with you with the trust 50. So I think it's only like $500 in order to upgrade from do it yourself to done with you. So we can send you the link for that. And I think that's it. Any other questions? We are going to wrap it up for tonight, you guys. Any other questions?
I do have another question. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
If you couldn't, can you join in this workshop if you put the 200 down for the second one?
No, you have to be paid in full to attend any live workshops, paid in full.
Okay, thank you.
You're so welcome. All right, guys. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you. Oh, I think I see B.
Oh, wait.
Do you have a question?
When is in the next workshop? That's the other question I had. Sorry.
So besides the one in September, the next one is the last week of October. So that's going to be October 28th to November 1st.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You're so welcome. B, do you have a question?
Yes. Hi, Christina. Thanks for the.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm glad. I thought you overlooked my question. I actually wanted to pay in full for the middle.
Yes.
However, I do have an obligation next week and won't be able to attend one of the sessions. Should I wait for the next group to get the full or?
So all of our sessions are recorded. And then we actually upload the recording like an hour after the workshop. So if you're not able to attend one of them, I will tell you to watch the recording, and then you can get with me privately so that I can catch you up to speed so that you don't have to miss the entire workshop.
Great. I'm ready. Also,
awesome.
Second question. I take it, I'm assuming, but I don't like to assume, you all will prep us for what's needed for each session as we're filling out the paperwork?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. So you're going to receive an email daily, and it's going to be every single day. So you're going to receive a welcome email initially, and that's going to have a checklist, and it's going to have 8 foundational videos that you want to watch prior to the workshop, which teaches you about what a trust is and the different parties, because we're not going to go through that during the workshop. We're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to go dive right into business trust. So you need to watch the little foundational videos. They're like 5 and 10 minutes. So watch those and then do the checklist. So you're going to have that in your welcome email. And then on day 1, you're going to receive the business trust template and all the resources that you need. And then that's going to be that process for the rest of the week. So day 2, you're going to receive an email with the family trust template and the resources. Day 3, you're going to receive an email with the nonprofit trust and the templates and the resources. Day 4, you're going to receive the templates that you need for learning about business credit, conducting the promissory notes in the business, and the
Man, I want to go to. I want to do that. I really.
in the board meetings. And then day 5, you're going to receive all the templates that you need for transferring the assets. So we're going to go over bill of sales, we're going to go over quick claims, and we're going to go over business purchase agreements. So you're going to receive all of that in your email with the specific Zoom link. So we do a separate, we do a new unique Zoom link every single day. So you're going to receive it an hour before the actual class.
Thank you so much. You know, there's a saying that we hear all the time, blessed to be a blessing. So may your cup forever overflow, because this is the cheapest. For all that you offer, your prices could be way higher. So I'm so glad I stumbled across your YouTube page, and I just want to thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you. This is my God-given mission. So God gave me those prices, and they're gonna stay exactly the way they are.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. Thank you. All right. Any other last questions, comments, or concerns before we wrap up our meeting?
Yes. Christina,
Hey, Namir.
I got a question.
Yes.
So look, right, you know, I've been on and do it myself, so I think I think I need to upgrade to do it with you. How much would it be for me to upgrade with the Trust 50? Could I still
Yeah.
do that too?
Yeah, you can do that. So it'll only be, I think it'll only be $500.
Okay. Oh, Shay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So can you send me an email and then I'll send you the link?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Namir.
Shay.
Okay, you have a good night. Okay, so everyone, thank you so much for being here tonight. I really appreciate you guys, staying and asking wonderful questions here on the webinar. And the only thing that I want to tell you is just take action on the information, get your affairs in order, because you guys are the generational curse breakers in your family. So you are literally going to be changing the trajectory of your family based off of the information that you have learned today, and you taking action on that information, and you getting your affairs in order and setting up your trust estate. So I commend you. I congratulate you for even being here in this room, in this space. And I'm looking forward to helping everyone. So God bless you guys. Have an amazing day. Go to our YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe, like, comment, and watch the replay, and then contact us. Let us know if you have any questions. We're here to support you guys. Okay. You guys have an amazing and wonderful evening, and I'll see you guys in the workshop next week. Bye.